In addition to configuring how your AvePoint Online Services tenant connects to your Microsoft 365 tenant, so that way when services like Cloud Backup want to go out and connect and do their jobs, they have that connection and communication pathway, which we do through things like the apps and the service accounts. The other critical component that you must configure early on in your AvePoint Online Services usage is what are called the Auto Discovery Scan Profiles. The scan profile's entire job is to go out and catalog, or index you might say, once a day, all of your various objects. This is required by tools like Cloud Backup because otherwise, yes, it can communicate with your Microsoft 365 tenant, but there are no objects that it sees in order to work on. There's nothing there for it to back up. No mailboxes, no OneDrives, no SharePoints, and so on. Now you might think, well, shouldn't that be controlled by the tool itself? Well, the answer to that is no, because if you ran multiple tools, like our Cloud Backup, but also Policies and Insights, maybe Cloud Management and Cloud Governance, even our Sense tool, imagine having each of those tools performing that same job every single day. That's a lot of extra work. That's a lot of extra calls into your Microsoft 365 tenant. So instead, it's controlled at the operating system level, at the platform level, in this case, at the AvePoint Online Services level. You can always tell if you forgot to do the scan profiles, especially in a tool like Cloud Backup, because when you try to go into it the first time, which you may, as a customer, want to do because, let's face it, you as a customer want to trial the tool, not trial the platform. So you might go and sign up for a trial, get into AOS and try to jump right into Cloud Backup. Well, you'll get a big pop-up that tells you, sorry, I don't see any objects. That's your indication that your scan profile has not been created and run. Now the good news is, if you do that, well, the very first time you log into AOS, there's actually a pop-up wizard here that will prompt you to do the configuration, including the scan profiles. But we know that sometimes we dismiss pop-ups, so I'm going to show you how to do it manually. To do that, in AOS, over on the left, under Auto Discovery, we go to Scan Profiles. Now you see I don't have any profiles here right now, so we click Create. And we have two choices, Express Mode and Advanced Mode. The Express Mode is the easiest thing to choose. It's where you want to catalog all of objects of a certain type. So if I'm running Cloud Backup and I want to back up my mailboxes, OneDrives, site collections, and my groups and teams, I simply check that off. There is no selection process within each of those scopes. You're not picking and choosing specific mailboxes, specific site collections. It will catalog them all. Then that list will be compiled and made available to all of your AvePoint services. And that means that your Cloud Backup tool will be backing up all of your mailboxes in all of your OneDrives and all of your site collections. That means that Policies and Insights will be able to report on all of your OneDrives and all of your teams. If, however, you would prefer to actually break these up into subsets, maybe you don't want to back up all of your site collections. So you'd like to be able to classify them in some way and then pick and choose once you get to the backup tool. Well, for that, you can build an advanced mode profile. We have a separate video on doing an advanced mode, so for the purpose of this video, let's take a look at doing Express. Now note, some things may not be available when setting this up. This means that you either do not have a license for that particular type of object, or you don't have a tool that you are either trialing or have licensed that interacts with that type of object. An example here is you can see my Microsoft 365 users are not selectable. That's because I've only signed up for a trial using Cloud Backup. Our tool that can primarily interact and do things with the users is our Sense tool. So since I am not trialing or licensed for Sense, there's no reason to catalog all of my users. So I'm going to select these four here, and we click Next. Then we give the profile a name, an optional description. And then we select the method that we're going to authenticate. Remember, authentication is done through apps and service accounts. So essentially, AOS will be connecting to your Microsoft 365 tenant so that it can run this indexing. Would you like it to connect through the app profile that you previously created? Or would you prefer to have it connect through one of your service accounts? You can see the default and the recommendation is to actually do it through the app profile. Please note that you cannot set up multiple express mode or advanced profiles and then have them run off of the same app profile. So it's recommended that you try to do as much as you can within a single profile. If you're doing Express and you're cataloging all of your objects, this is very easy. Essentially, once I click Save and Run down at the bottom, we'll be all set. If you did want those subsets that I was describing, certain site collections, certain teams, for instance, you would do an advanced mode profile. If you set that up as a separate profile from an Express mode, you will not be able to pick the same authentication method. So you'd want to have a service account to run that other profile. There's also a trick to doing your advanced modes. You can do an advanced mode profile where, let's say you just want certain teams. Well, you can build out criteria searches to find and organize those teams, but on the other tabs that you would have, you can tell it, take everything and then dump it into a single container. Again, we'll see that over in the video on advanced scan profiles. So yes, this is fine. I'm going to let it connect using my app profile. And how often do I want this to run? You can see your option is really only just once a day. You could clear this checkbox if you don't want it to run automatically. We do not recommend that, though, for one simple reason. Remember, the scan profile's results are made available to all of your other services. So what happens in the middle of the day if someone creates new teams? Well, AOS can't see those new teams until this runs. That means your backup tool is not backing up those teams until this runs, and then Cloud Backup sees the newly indexed teams. That means that policies and insights cannot report on your new teams until this runs, and those new teams are cataloged and policies and insights can see them in the index. So if you don't do this every day, then you almost certainly will be missing objects over time that will not be backed up or reported on and so on. So we do recommend that you run this automatically. Down at the bottom, if I click Save, it will not run right now. It will run tonight, though, at midnight, and then every night at midnight. If I want to kick the job off, I can click Save and Run. Now, also, please note, this button is always available to you. So if, for instance, say in the middle of the day, you would like to run one of these jobs, you do not have to wait till midnight to get that done. You can come into this tool, you can edit the existing scan profile, make no changes, and then just click Save and Run, and that will kick off a job. An example might be if you create a brand new SharePoint site collection with tons of business critical information in there, and it makes you a little nervous to have to wait till midnight tonight for the first backup of that to take place. You can come into AOS, you can kick off this job in the middle of the day, and whenever the next backup job runs, let's say 4 p.m., it will see that new site collection because it's been cataloged by the scan profile, and then it'll get backed up. So this is how you can run this manually if you have that need. I'm going to click Save and Run. It tells us that we have successfully created the profile. And if I click back over on Scan Profiles, we can see that it is currently scanning. Now I'm going to pause our video here, and I'll come back when that scan is done. Okay, so now we can see that this has finished, and you can view the results of your scan by selecting it and going into Scan History. If we scroll down, we can see all of the mailboxes are newly scanned and have been placed in this container called Default Mailbox Container. Now, where do containers show up? Well, if we go into the actual products themselves, containers appear within the products and are visible and selectable in that particular solution for the purpose of whatever that solution is going to do. So now in Cloud Backup, I can see mailboxes in Mailbox Container. In OneDrive, I can see OneDrives in our OneDrive container. Same for Teams, Groups, SharePoint sites, and so on. So our logic is very straightforward. We need to run this scan profile, otherwise none of the solutions that we have can see any of the Microsoft 365 objects that we need that solution to be able to interact with. And that's it. Now every night at midnight, according to my schedule, again, AOS will reach out to Microsoft 365. It will check to see if there has been anything newly added within the last 24 hours. New mailboxes, new OneDrives if users have been added, new teams, new site collections, new groups if those have been created, and then any tool that requires visibility into those objects will now have them appear. As mentioned earlier, that is an express mode profile, but there is also a type of profile called advanced mode, and we will take a look at that in our next video. Thanks for watching.